Good evening. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and these are the headlines that we're tracking tonight. Prime Minister Narendra Modi presents India as a bright spot in the world economy to German Chancellor Angela Merkel, calls for greater cooperation in Make in India. The UP government presents report on Dadri lynching incident to the centre, indicates that it will take action against BJP MLA and BSP leader for violating prohibitory orders. Former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's niece, Nayanthara Sehgal, returns Sahithya Academy Awards in protest against the growing intolerance, referring to the Dadri incident. Cases filed against BJP President Amit, Shah and RJD Chief Lalu, Prasad after Election Commission pulls them up for controversial remarks during Bihar poll rallies. And the first round of talks failed to break the deadlock in Nepal. Madhesi leaders demand new demarcation of boundary and more representation for the community. Well, top story this evening. On day 2 of her India visit, German Chancellor Angela Merkel visited Bengaluru. Along with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, she visited 2 facilities of German auto parts manufacturer Bosch in the city. The 2 leaders then attended an Indo-German business summit organized by NASSCOM. There, both leaders called on increased economic ties.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a strong pitch for the Make in India initiative as he called for greater collaboration with Germany. He was speaking at the Indo-German summit organized by NASSCOM. He said that at a time of global slowdown, India represented a bright spot.
Apart from vigorous implementation of measures for ease of doing business, we have fast-track approvals and clearances for industry and infrastructure. Transparent auction and allocations of spectrum and of key natural resources like coal, iron ore and other minerals in the last 15 months have created a level playing field for investors.
Es sind verschiedene Dinge neu geregelt worden, zum Beispiel das Vergabewesen von Kohlelizenzen, die Beteiligungsgrenzen für ausländische Direktinvestitionen in einigen Branchen sind erhöht worden. Wenn diese Liberalisierungsmaßnahmen der Auftakt für weitere Reformvorhaben sind, dann ist das für uns in Deutschland auch ein Startschuss für weitere Vorhaben deutscher Unternehmen in Indien.
Talking about Indo-German business ties, Modi said they remain below their full potential. Chancellor Merkel also agreed with the Prime Minister and said that the 2 sides should work towards developing certain sectors.
Stadtentwicklung und Energieversorgung. Ob es etwa um Mobilität insgesamt oder auch um Dienstleistungen und Berufsbildung geht, von einer engen Zusammenarbeit können wir gleichermaßen profitieren, egal ob es um Digitalisierung geht oder eben um die zuletzt genannten Bereiche. Daher ist es gut.
There is a tremendous potential in India-Germany economic collaboration. Germany ranks 7th among foreign investor countries in India. About 600 Indo-German joint ventures are already operating in India. However, as of now, our economic partnership remains below our full potential. We are particularly keen to develop the sectors where Germany is strong. We are working hard to create conducive conditions for the same.
The Prime Minister also assured business leaders that India is committed to protecting intellectual property rights of all innovators and entrepreneurs.
I want to assure you that India is committed to protecting intellectual property rights of all innovators and entrepreneurs. We have taken several initiatives for transparency and online processing in IP administration. A comprehensive national IPR policy is being finalized.
Earlier, the two leaders visited two facilities of Bosch in Bengaluru. The visit helped them get an overview of how the auto parts supplier trains young people in India for technical trade. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the latest in the probe into the Dadri lynching case, the Uttar Pradesh police today claimed it could take action against BJP MLA Sangeet Som and BSP leader Naseemuddin Siddiqui for violating prohibitory orders. It also filed a case against the Hindu Rakshak Dal for allegedly making inflammatory speeches. This after sending a report to the Union Home Ministry over the incident.
No mention of a motive or the people responsible. The report of the Uttar Pradesh government on the Dadri murder incident incorporates a factual account of the incident as stated in the FIR filed by the local police. The report says unidentified people attacked the murdered victim Mohammad Ekhlaq and his son Danish. It further states the trigger was an unconfirmed allegation that they had consumed meat of an animal banned from slaughter. Union Home Minister Rajnath Singh, whose ministry received the report, renewed his call to maintain peace.
मैं समझता हूं कि सामाजिक सांप्रदायिक सौहार्द बनाकर रखना हर जो है भारतीय नागरिक की जिम्मेदारी बनती है और यह सामाजिक और सांप्रदायिक सौहार्द बनाकर रखने के लिए सभी को योगदान करना चाहिए। मैं यही सबसे अपेक्षा करता हूं और यही सबसे मैं अपील करता हूं और मुझे यह बताया गया है कि वहां की स्थिति को सहज और सामान्य बनाने के लिए प्रयत्न किया जा रहा है, लेकिन जो कुछ भी है मैं मानता हूं कि जो घटना घटित हुई है बहुत ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है।
Media accounts say that the two-page report lists names of political personalities who visited Mohammad Ekhlaq's family and those who went to Bishara village in Dadri but did not visit the family. Reports say FIRs are likely against some of them who violated prohibitory orders.
दादरी में काफी बवाल हो चुका है। भगवान के लिए नेताओं की आवाजाही वहां कम होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि अधिकांश भड़काव कुछ नेताओं के जाने से होने तय होते हैं।
Earlier, the Home Ministry asked the UP government to provide details of the incident. It has directed other states to take the strictest possible action against those who try to weaken the secular fabric by exploiting religious emotions. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in a related development, eminent author and niece of Jawaharlal Nehru, Nayanthara Sehgal, has returned her Sahithya Academy Award. She did so to protest the growing intolerance towards the right to dissent in the country. She explained his decision in a statement titled Unmaking of India, in which she is referred to the recent Dadri incident wherein a man was lynched by a mob for allegedly eating beef. She had also cited various other incidents, including killings of writers and rationalists M.M. Kalburgi and Govind Pansare. In her statement, she says, in memory of the Indians who've been murdered, in support of all Indians who uphold the right to dissent, and of all dissenters who now live in fear and uncertainty, I am returning my Sahithya Academy Award. The 88-year-old writer has also questioned the Prime Minister's silence on the growing number of such incidents. She also accuses the Sahithya Academy, the organization that promotes Indian literature, of being silent despite the seriousness of the issue. On to news from politics in Bihar, where RJD chief Lalu Prasad and BJP President Amit Shah have been booked for their remarks against each other during campaigning for the assembly polls in the state. And both have taken pot shots at each other during their rallies. In Begusarai, Amit Shah had referred to Lalu Prasad's conviction in a photo scam case. Lalu hit back at the BJP president a day later over his alleged role in the Gujarat riots. The FIRs were registered at Patna and Jamui against Lalu, for which the remark for which the Election Commission found violative of Representation of People Act and IPC sections.
एक अक्टूबर को ANI को ही कुछ बयान दिया गया था जो आपत्तिजनक पाया गया जांच में। उसके बाद एग्जीक्यूटिव मजिस्ट्रेट के रिपोर्ट पर सचिवालय थाने में FIR दर्ज कर ली गई है और उसकी पुलिस जांच कर रही है।
A three-member independent committee set up by the Delhi government has recommended 4-time hike in the salaries and allowances for MLAs. The panel recommended the hike in salaries from 12,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees. The The panel also recommended a hike in constituency allowance from 18,000 rupees to 50,000 and conveyance allowance from 6,000 rupees to 30,000 rupees. According to the recommendations, the total emoluments will increase from 88,000 rupees to 2.10 lakhs. The last salary revision was done in 2011 when the Congress government, led by then Chief Minister Sheila Dikshit, gave itself a 100% hike. Let's now get you some more national news and updates nationwide. West Bengal State Election Commissioner Sushanta Ranjan Upadhyay resigned from his post today. He had earlier postponed the counting for the recent Senate polls after opposition parties filed complaints of rigging, booth capturing and widespread violence. Ruling Trinamool Congress has staged a protest outside his office on Monday, questioning his decision. 30 members of opposition parties were suspended from both houses of the Telangana legislature for stalling proceedings over the issue of farmer suicides. Opposition members have been demanding that the TRS government waive the farmers' loans in one go instead of doing so in a phased manner. Maoists reportedly kidnapped 3 local leaders of the Telugu Desam Party from Visakhapatnam district. The kidnappers have demanded an immediate ban on bauxite mining in the state border area. The 3 leaders didn't attend a meeting that they were told to. Around 50 people have been arrested in Varanasi a day after protesters clashed with the police. Schools and colleges remained closed and authorities are keeping a tight vigil. Curfew was imposed but relaxed later following the clashes on Monday. The Madras High Court has asked the Bar Council of India to abolish the 3-year law degree course. It sought to retain only 5-year course on par with other professional courses like medicine and engineering. The court also suggested reducing the number of seats in law colleges. Time for a very quick break. On the other side, we'll talk about the NATO forces who've dismissed Russia's defense on Turkish airspace violation as a mere accident after Turkey summons a Russian envoy over a second violation. All that and more on the other side.
Bihar election is going to be a referendum on centre's performance.
Narendra Modi cannot be judged for his performance in Bihar, but he can certainly be judged on what he promised and what he delivered, which is essentially the performance of the central government.
When a person like Nitish Kumar stands by the side of Lalu Prasad, the general perception is that he's a symbol of corruption.
Mr. Lalu Prasad cannot stand for the elections nor be the chief minister. He has endorsed Nitish Kumar.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, the talks between agitating Madhesi community and the Nepal government to end the ongoing crisis remained inconclusive today. Nepal is facing acute shortage of essential items, including fuel, over protests against the newly promulgated constitution. The talks are taking place a day after the community clarified that India did not have a role in blocking supplies to Nepal.
It's been over 50 days since the Madhesi community took to the streets, and there seems no end to it after the first round of talks between the two sides failed to resolve matters. Talks are set to resume on Wednesday when both sides are expected to come prepared with formal proposals to end the deadlock. The community leaders have a list of demands which include new demarcation of boundary for the southern plains and more rights and representation for the Madhesi people.
सीमांकन लगायत निर्वाचन क्षेत्र नागरिकता और बाकी अधिकार का जो सवाल है उस सारी बातों पर आज से हमारी बात शुरू होगी। दो चरण में बात होगी। एक चरण में पूर्व शर्त पर बात होगी, वार्ता के लिए पूर्व शर्त कितना पालन हुआ, कितना पूरा माहौल बनाने के लिए। यदि माहौल नहीं बना तो फिर बात आगे नहीं बढ़ पाएगी।
The community has imposed an economic blockade to oppose the new constitution which has proposed to split Nepal into 7 provinces. Blockade at the border with India has stalled thousands of trucks carrying essential supplies to Nepal. It has led to acute fuel crisis and shortage of food items, forcing Nepal to move UN last week to seek help. The political parties in Nepal have accused India of deliberately choking supplies to back the Indian origin Madhesi community. However, India rejected the charges and has also got the backing from the community.
ये भारत का नाकेबंदी नहीं है, ये संयुक्त लोकतांत्रिक मधेसी मोर्चा के तहत आम तराई वासियों का, आम यहाँ के आदिवासियों का दलितों का, थारुओं का ये आंदोलन है। और ये आंदोलन भारतीय आंदोलन नहीं है, ये आंदोलन मधेशियों का आंदोलन है जो अधिकार से वंचित है और विभेद में पड़े हुए नागरिकों का ये आंदोलन है।
Meanwhile, India wants an amendment to the constitution to address the demands of the Madhesis within this week before there is a change of guard in Nepal's leadership. Prime Minister Sushil Koirala has stepped down, paving way for the selection of his successor as per the newly framed constitution. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And we're joined by SD Muni, foreign affairs expert, to help us understand. Mr. Muni, now that the parties are at the talking table, do you think that this blockade, as we've seen, which has really hampered the supply of essential goods to Nepal, could that be lifted? Do you think some kind of middle ground could be achieved?
Well, I think much depends upon how Madhesis will respond to the Kathmandu leadership's proposals. As you read out in your news, it's very clear that they want the boundaries, provincial boundaries, to be redrawn.
Right.
And they also want the representational issue to be settled. The Kathmandu leadership may be willing to do the latter, but so far as provincial boundaries are concerned, they have their own reservations. And that's why Madhesis are saying that unless that is also settled and taken on the table, I think the unsettled conditions in Tarai would continue, affecting the flow of goods to Kathmandu. That's the main question.
All right, but as far as India's role is concerned, now we heard a few Madheshi leaders over there as well saying that India is certainly not involved. This is a local blockade. But the picture in Kathmandu is quite different. The political parties are saying something very different. And could this snowball into something larger between India and Nepal, given the fact that there are other countries also in the region who would be interested in Nepal? And also, just to help our viewers understand, as far as the representation of the Madhesi community is concerned, how does they match up in terms of populace and how underrepresented are they?
Well, they are very grossly underrepresented in the entire Nepalese political structure, whether you take political parties, whether you take parliament, whether you take administration, whether you take security forces, whether you take bureaucracy, whatever else it is. There is no doubt that they are heavily underrepresented. So far as India is concerned, if the Tarai is unsettled, then goods cannot go. It is possible for India to send goods through other channels, but most of the goods are designated which exit or which entry point they should be going to Kathmandu. I think both the sides there are problems, and the problem also arises because India is insisting on the rights and demands of the Madhesis to be accommodated. There is nobody in Kathmandu objectively who will say that Madhesis have not been neglected. Therefore, if that is the issue, then the leadership should address primarily the question of Madhesis, and if the Madhesis question is not addressed, then unsettled conditions in Tarai, even if it is a pretext, it gives India a legitimate pretext not to be very cooperative with Kathmandu. That's the main question, and I understand that sooner or later the Kathmandu leadership must try and accommodate whatever the genuine legitimate demands of the Madhesis are.
But do you see that Nepal turning to other countries also, because Nepal, the Nepalese side just moved the UN as well on this matter. Do you see India being countered with overtures towards other countries such as China perhaps?
Well, they have raised this issue with the UN Secretary General, which I would say is unfortunate because they have not really had serious discussions with New Delhi. And without having a bilateral approach to the whole question, they have gone to the international bodies. But so far as China is concerned, yes, there are groups and lobbies within Nepal who would want this to be used as an alternative to India.
Right.
But there are serious problems for getting things which they get from India. The Chinese may politically be willing to be dragged into it as a counterweight to India. But roads are not clear, the goods cannot come. If a truck, for instance, starts from Lhasa with full of petrol tanker, By the time it reaches Kathmandu, it will get exhausted in driving the truck itself.
Right.
Therefore, there are problems of distance, there are problems of infrastructure, and that is not a viable decision. In fact, their finance minister has very clearly said that China option is not a viable option at this moment, at least.
All right, on that note, we'll have to wrap it up. But SD Muni, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand how this vexing problem as far as the representation of the Madhesi community in the Nepalese constitution and the new establishment goes, and how that's becoming a big issue between India and Nepal. Thanks so much for that. Well, moving on now, NATO has dismissed Russia's claim that Turkish airspace violation was a mere accident. It said Russia failed to provide any real explanation of the violation, which lasted longer than what Moscow claims. Meanwhile, Turkey summoned the Russian ambassador again over allegations of a second airspace violation in Syria early on Sunday.
The NATO chief has rubbished Russia's defense over the Turkish airspace violation. Jens Stoltenberg reiterated that Russia's action was not just an accident, as being claimed by Moscow. His comments came after an emergency meeting of ambassadors of its 28 member states. All strongly condemned Russian incursions. However, Russia blamed the bad weather conditions for the incident.
I will not speculate on the motives. I will just reiterate or restate that this is a serious violation of Turkish airspace. It should not happen again.
Как вы видите на карте, авиабаза Кмеймим находится в непосредственной близости от сирийско-турецкой границы. Расстояние около 30 километров. При определенных климатических условиях заход на аэродром осуществляется с севера.
Meanwhile, Turkey has alleged a second violation of airspace by Russia. It has once again summoned the Russian ambassador on the latest incident on Sunday. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan raised concerns over Russian intervention in Syria as he met the EU chief Donald Tusk in Brussels. Meanwhile, the US State Department said that the Russian incursion is reckless, dangerous, and provocative.
We also discussed the urgent need to find a solution to the conflict in Syria. We agree that the solution cannot happen through having Russia allied with President Assad bombing legitimate opposition forces.
We're greatly concerned about it because it is precisely the kind of thing that, had Turkey responded under its rights, could have resulted in a shoot-down, and it is precisely the kind of thing that we warned against.
The US also said that the two incidents over the weekend reveals Russia's motives were broader than just fighting Islamic State militants in Syria. They cautioned that Russia is actually helping Syrian President Assad by targeting civilian areas housing his political rivals. However, Russia claims that it is bombing just Islamic State targets. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the Nobel Prize in Physics this year went to Takaaki Fujita of Japan and Arthur B. McDonald of Canada. They were awarded for their contributions to experiments showing that neutrinos, very common but hard to detect particles, have mass. Neutrinos are the second most abundant subatomic particles in the universe after photons, which carry light. The discovery is expected to help understand the workings of matter and can provide crucial view to the universe. Fujita is one of the leaders of the Super Kamiokande experiment in Japan, while McDonald led the Sudbury Neutrino Observatory in Canada.
It's been a complete whirlwind ever since. Has it sunk in? I guess it has sunk in. My life seems to have changed a little bit. We're able to show that neutrinos change from one type to the other as they travel from the core of the sun to us here.
もちろんじゃあニュートリノに感謝をしたい。はい。大きい問題というのはですね、1日とか2日の短い研究で解決できるものではなくて、たくさんの人が興味を持って長い年月かけて解き明かしていくというそういうものなので、そのような宇宙の謎解きに、若い人にはぜひ参加していただきたいというふうに思います。
Time now for all the sports action in Sports Speed. In hockey, New Zealand defeated India 2-0 in the first game of the 4-match test series at Nelson. Nick Hague and Jared Panchia scored 2 goals each for the hosts. The two teams had met last in the Hero Hockey World League Final 2014. New Zealand had claimed the victory then. The BCCI barred ex-chief N. Srinivasan from attending meetings. Newly appointed President Shashank Manohar informed the Supreme Court of the decision. Srinivasan's lawyer Kapil Sibal has countered that BCCI has not passed any resolution to stop him from attending the meetings. Former Pakistan captain Shoaib Malik was included as the 16th member of the Test squad for the 3-match series against England in UAE. The team management had requested Malik's inclusion based on his current batting form in limited overs and as an extra bowling option. Malik last played his Test against England in Birmingham in 2010. Well, that's the news tonight. Good night.